Hello, beautiful women of the Brainwave Masterclass. It is Laura Patricia Martin coming to you live to walk us through why eating for our mental health matters. Over these next 2 days, we are going to be having some honest conversations around mental health and wellness and how our life choices and the foods that we eat and the ways that we live our day-to-day life impact this. As you're coming on, make sure you're saying hello and let me know, are you watching the replay? 1 and 2, is this the first time you're catching any of my master classes, or are you an old friend? And let me know which master classes you've caught. In these 2 days, we are going to be covering some sensitive topics, and I want you to know you're always safe. No matter what, no matter what's going on or any of that kind of stuff, you're always taken care of. This is a safe space. When we're talking about anxiety and mental health, it can be over-consuming sometimes and overwhelming, and it can feel like things, get triggered and things like that. And oftentimes we shut these feelings down and we don't want to explore them and we don't want to dive into them. And I did that for years because it hurts, or, it means we have to move with them now. But really, in these 2 days, lean in, explore what that feeling is, explore what what makes you want to lean out and why. And know that no matter what you're feeling, it's okay, and you're always okay. And as we always, everything on the internet, run everything by your doctors for what we're going to talk about. I am an IBS anxiety specialist, but I am not your IBS anxiety specialist. So what you can expect in these 2 days is a game plan and an understanding of what's going on with you and your body, and so that we can get a clear picture, so we can really make sense of what's going on. And, I was going through the messages when we first, before we entered the group and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of it, the feelings around stuff was the same, of just wanting to have emotional control again, wanting to know what's going on with our body, wanting natural solutions, wanting to stop living in fear, really honoring what our body is saying and trying to decipher what she's trying to tell us so we can get control over our lives again. And we're going to get that in these 2 days. And so, if you are new to this world, or you're just starting out, or you're in the in-between, this is a perfect place for you to begin, because we're going to be covering all the bases to really just get down into what's happening, and so that we can move forward from there. The reason I love this work so much is this work saved my life. Truly, truly, it saved my life. I was diagnosed with depression at 13, which I now know is anxiety-induced depression. And a lot of things just didn't make sense for a really long time. And let me make sure this is working here. Because I realized, let's see, Brainwave. Because nothing is popping up here. Sorry, technology. Let's see. Okay, make sure. There we go. Okay. And so for a really long time, I didn't feel connected to my body. Nothing made sense. Nothing filled me with joy. And I always had these negative thoughts going through my body. And I never felt in control of her from an early age. And I was told that, I was also diagnosed with IBS. So I was told also my eating and my foods and all this kind of stuff would never be intuitive, I guess. It was like, you're stuck with this, it runs in your family, here you go, here's a medication, here's how you have to live your life and move forward from there. And it just, to me, I didn't think to question it for a really long time. I didn't think to poke holes in something that I was told this is how it is and this is how it needs to be. And then I didn't start taking responsibility until I was 24 years old, where I found myself in an abusive relationship, not knowing how to get myself out of it. I was 40 pounds underweight. I had IBS. I had hypothyroidism. I was having panic attacks all the time. I was, laden with depression, suicidal thoughts, all the things. And it wasn't until one day I was sitting on the balcony thinking of taking my life that I realized in those moments we have two choices. We either continue doing what we're doing and everything feels heavy and nothing really makes sense, and it just doesn't turn out well, or we choose to take radical responsibility and we change. And that's the beauty of it. When we choose to take radical responsibility, which is exactly what you beautiful humans are doing here, things start to change. Not all at once, but over a lifetime, because you're getting little nuggets of wisdom that start to make sense and we start to implement in our lives. And maybe that's not right away. And for me, that was nutrition. The saving grace of my life was understanding I wasn't broken, and science was the thing that helped explain that to me. And that's my mission and my work on this planet, is to really bring that to you guys today and forever, to really explain how our bodies are working so that we stop living in fear of them. And so today we're going to be talking about why we have anxiety and the daily impacts and the daily doings and the practical solutions that we can start to implement daily because of how our day-to-day living is impacting this. Yay, I see people coming on now. And so as we're leading into these things, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to want to expand just so you can have the same knowledge stance that I have. And what we're covering today is the extension of the programs that I do teach, which I'm going to be talking about at the end. But the reason this is free is because, one, I use these programs to repurpose them into later programs that we use. Really, next year we're creating a mental health course, so these will be in there. And two, it's the way that I meet new people and I expand and I explore, and we do have offers at the end how we can continue this conversation. So you will be getting value in this, because in the ways that we do stuff, we repurpose things and making sure that everything has a takeaway, and there will be offers at the end, just so you know, so we can continue the conversation. But if you are ready to dive in, let me know. Sometimes Facebook, I do want to say this, sometimes Facebook does crash when we do lives, so if that happens, just stay put. And I will come back on and you can join the thing again. And sometimes the comments don't show up. Right now I cannot see comments. So we're just going to wing it and intuitively go with it. And I will pull up on my laptop to see if those things come through or not as we go along. But to dive in, I want to talk about some things that maybe you've heard before. 3 common things that I hear when I get on phone calls with clients is, when it comes to anxiety and IBS and all the things in our life, is it runs in my family. I was told I will have this for my entire life, and medications are the only solution. And if you've been told that, I want you to know you're okay, and that's not true. And we're gonna explain that in this next hour together, because it's just the thing that the healthcare system is meant for, and there's no shame in it. They're meant for maintenance. They're meant for taking care of things of immediate danger. It's not really preventative. So when you're coming to your doctor or your practitioner or something like that, they're doing the best they can with the tools that they're given, and it's not wrong that we follow that, because we are told that this is how we have to navigate things. So it's okay. It's just the system that we're inside of, but it doesn't make it right. And I believe that is why we are all connected to it, so we can challenge that belief and really dive into it. And so I want to break down the first one of, it runs in my family, because I was told this. So I grew up in a household with addiction and abstinence and just dysregulations of our body and our hormones and anger was the cue, and hypothyroidism and, depression, and this is why I was diagnosed at a younger age. And, as, I unfortunately lost my mom, but looking at her life now and looking back at it in hindsight, I see how those things came about. And it wasn't, and so I chose that as my life force. Hi, Linda. Yay, I can see comments. Okay. So happy to have you here. So as I was going about my life's journey, I never thought to question that, right? Like, we are told in our life's journey, this is just the way it is, and trust it, right? But then I continued on with my education, and when I was studying, when I was studying psychology and doing my undergrad, but like when I was studying nutrition, we were learning about epigenetics, we were learning about neuroplasticity, we were learning about, how our microbiome changes within 4 days, like all these things. And so I'm sitting here after years of being at war with my body, years of being on diets and restrictions and having eating disorders and mental health issues, and writing it off as like the fouler temper that runs in our family and all these things. I'm sitting in class and I'm like, wait a second. So when it comes to epigenetics, and maybe you've heard of this, maybe you haven't, but epigenetics is when, yes, we have to have the genetic predisposition. So hypothyroidism and hormonal balances run in my family, okay? But, so we have that gene in our lineage, yes. But based off of our lifestyle choices, they get to turn off and on. And so I challenge this belief, because what I know in my life is I learned how to eat, exercise, handle my emotions, not handle my emotions, avoid my problems, all the things of my life. I learned because of my house. So the reason my health issues aligned with my family lineage is because I learned how to live my life from my family lineage. Is that making sense to you? Is this like, and oftentimes when I'm on phone calls with clients or consultations and stuff, they often say like, my mom has this, and this is why I have that. Like, it just runs in our family. And it's always striking when we have to sit there and like you challenge it. And often we will feel resentment, or not resentment, but a push-up, and you like feel that like crunch. You're like, no, but I've thought that my whole life. And we hold it so tight, and we don't want to challenge it. We want to, like, it's our belief. And so it's scary to let go of that. And so, yes, things run in our family. That's okay. But we get a choice of how that runs in our life, right? I know addiction runs in my family. I know hypothyroidism runs in my family. I know hormonal imbalances run in my family. But it wasn't until I was, not even when I was 24 and had these changes, not until I was like 26 and started really diving into my health and understanding, I went a little too ham and potatoes on that, but really sitting in this moment of being like, okay, so if I want to be a mother, and if I want to be a mother that has emotional control, and if I want to be a mother that has a good dating history, because at the time I was dating abusive men, I was putting me, because that's where my self-worth was, it's like I was learning things because of that's what I was taught. And I had deep conversations with my dad and hard conversations with my dad, but the epiphany moment was just sitting there being like, this is all a choice. I'm not at fault for the fact that this runs in my family, but the fact that I'm choosing to respond in such a way where I'm not eating the right foods, or I'm overstressed, I'm overworking out, I haven't dealt with my trauma, I don't have communication with my body. And so of course I'm not, my body's gonna be stuck in this fight or flight state of mind. And the gene is gonna turn on. And so I did have anxiety. I had cortisol levels so bad through the roof. Like, whenever my paperwork came back from my doctors, they're like, are you okay? And I just kept going on away, like I didn't challenge anything. And so the hardest thing around this whole thing is that we have to start to navigate and take responsibility. I have a lot of health issues in my family too, and also have a few diagnoses myself, as well as being a carrier of a rare disease my son has. and changes my lifestyle to heal and feels amazing to, yes, Linda, I have chills. I'm so activated by that. That's exactly it. It's a thing of, yes, we have things in our family, we can't deny that. But we also learn how to respond to life from our family. We learn how to eat, we learn how to move, we learn our emotional responses of how we do and we do not deal with things. In my house, anger was a natural thing. Like, I've been preparing for this masterclass, right? Preparing for upcoming courses and things like that. So I am going deep into my history so I can reprogram these things to deliver the content to you, right? But it's so triggering to go through it because I'm reading things from like 2013 where I am angry, I am so confused, I am out, like, I was reading one, it was from like 1 a.m. I'm like 20 years old at 1 a.m. writing this stuff of like, I hope I don't die young because I haven't made amends for the things I've done in my life, and like I haven't fixed my relationship with my mom and all these kind of things, and I've always felt that thing. And like I was still so angry, like that was the natural response. And like eating, right? Nutrition came from my family. Like our dinners were like cowboy stew. My mom was a nurse, so she would come home and she didn't have time, and it's fine. But it was like cowboy stews and pizza. And then if my dad was watching us, it was like frozen chicken, minute rice, pizza. Like it was just not a healthy thing, and that's no one's fault. But it's a no duh kind of moment, because I realized as I got older, nourishing myself didn't come naturally because I wasn't shown that as a kid. You know, I wasn't beyond just put a fork in your mouth at the age of like 2. And then home ec, where I learned how to burn cakes. Like, I was not taught about nutrition. And then, you know, heavily dieting, where calories ran the whole show. And then the eating disorder stemmed, and then all that kind of stuff. But it's like, it didn't go beyond that. I didn't understand macros until I started studying nutrition. I didn't understand micros until I started studying the gut microbiome. I didn't understand our nervous system and how all of this stuff plays in. Like, we're not taught that, so it's no one's fault. But like, the reason our genes are turned on is because we don't challenge that belief. We don't think to ask our doctors because we don't know how to have conversations, and we don't want to be the annoying person and, you know, the looks that they give you. We don't want to push back on our parents because at a certain age we can't blame our parents anymore. I like to like make the joke in my family. I'm like, at 24 we have to stop blaming our parents. It's our time to rise. Like, we are women, we lead ourselves. It's our time to take radical responsibility, Linda. Just like you were saying, of like, yo, I've seen this thing going on, and now I'm doing my lifestyle and my nutrition, and this is the magical thing that happens. You fall in love with yourself in such a different degree. And the people around you witness that. And it changes so much more than just our nutrition or our anxiety and our mental health. It creates this magnetism where like everything changes. Something I always say, and something we're going to go deeper in tomorrow, is just treat yourself like someone you love. You know, oftentimes we're looking for a sense of belonging, especially when we're struggling with anxiety. We're looking for a place and a space and a sense that makes sense. But the problem is, we're always looking for that outside of ourselves. Through diets, through eliminations, through over-exercising, through men, through women, through friendships, through money, through clothing. Like, we're always feeding this sense of somewhere along the line, we're gonna fit in somewhere. Because our brains, they just work differently. And for a long time, I thought that was bad. Now I realize how powerful life gets to become when we use our brain as a tool as opposed to a weapon, and what it all means, and how we gain control. And, you know, like, the coolest thing is, like, it happens with my clients, it happens within my programs. Like, my clients will go through my programs, and within, like, they've been on medications and things for decades, right? We work together for, say, 3 months, and if we did my one-on-one containers, they come off their medications so quick, it's bananas. And of course, there's steps and there's practical things we have to work with their doctors on, because there is some reuptake and relapse things that can happen. But when you do the right things in the right order at the right time, everything about what you're feeling makes sense. And I promise you that. I promise you, if you choose 1% better each day, it's 1% better. It's just like reading a really long book. You get those, I never read Harry Potter, but you know, they're massive things. And you're like, I'm not reading that book. Like, that was gonna take me 78 years. I'm not doing that. But you see all the other kids in school reading it, and you're like, okay, fine. And so you commit to 1 page a day. All of a sudden, you get to day 30 and you're 30 pages in. And you know 30 new things about this story that you can now talk to people about and engage in and all these different things. And that is how it works in our life. We don't, you know, where I am today and where I see my clients and all that kind of stuff, like, I wasn't here overnight. This is a 6-year journey. And it's not to say it's going to take you 6 years, because I didn't do these things. I didn't just show up to lives. I listened to podcasts, but I definitely went on this trip solo. And so it took me a very long time. But you're here. And that's freaking amazing. Because you collapse time when you get in rooms and do the work like this, because you continually do 1 step better, and then all of a sudden you're sitting in a space, you know, in a home you never thought you would ever have, in a relationship with the person that you love most in the world, overcoming some of the most traumatic things of your life, all of a sudden sitting here being like, how did I get here? How the heck did I get here? But I also remember that 24-year-old on a balcony at her lowest point in her life, contemplating taking her life, wondering, how the heck am I going to get there? How am I going to leave this relationship? What am I doing at the time living in Bangkok? Like, what am I doing? How the heck am I going to, what? But it was because of the commitment of 1% better. And it was challenging these beliefs of, it runs in our family, or we're stuck with it forever. You know, we're stuck with it forever. Let's challenge that one now. You're not stuck with it. Neuroplasticity, baby. Neuroplasticity means your brain goes like an engine, right? It goes, fires and wires at certain speeds, at certain times, doing different things. But when we have anxiety, we have neuroinflammation. So the problem is not anxiety. The problem that needs to be addressed is, why do I have neuroinflammation? It's not even neuroinflammation itself. It's, why do I have neuroinflammation? What's happening? What's going on here? And so let me explain this a little bit. So if you have a inflammation in a joint, carpal tunnel things, you are achy, you can't move, it hurts, you're very much aware of it. If you have inflammation in your throat and you have a cold, you know it, right? When we have inflammation in our brain, beyond just a tension headache, it's called neuroinflammation. And that shows up in anxiety, depression, OCD, ADD, irrational anger, lack of emotional control, mood swings, adrenal fatigue, brain fog, all the things. But what do we do as a society? We chase the symptom, never getting to a root cause. And even if now you're like, oh yeah, like neuroinflammation, what does that mean? And now you know, it's then we chase neuroinflammation, but the question we need to be asking ourselves is, why do I have neuroinflammation? And that's the hardest thing to sit with, right? Because we're often shown, okay, so I have anxiety because my mom has this, my dad has this, this whole confusion thing. But really, neuroinflammation happens because our gut and our brain are in constant communication with each other through this thing called the vagus nerve. It is our longest cranial nerve. It goes from our brainstem to our gut. It controls everything about us, right? Our survival organs. It's our heart, our lungs, our brain, our blood flow, our digestion, our hormones. It all runs through this enteric nervous system, which is why one of the reasons our gut is called our second brain. It runs entirely on its own. But when we are stressed, when we are triggered, when we are stuck in a trauma response, when we are anxious, when we're depressed, when we live the human experience and we don't have a tool belt that is built to downregulate our nervous system, our vagus nerves shuts down. It stops communicating properly, which is why a lot of my clients who struggle with mental health also have IBS and chronic food sensitivities or heartburn or nausea, things that have to do with our gut and our digestion. They go hand in hand. And so when the vagus nerve shuts down, it stops firing. And when it stops sending the signals it needs to send, inflammation rises because it gives off these molecules that give anti-inflammatory compounds, so it knows when something's wrong and it will send these things off. And so if we're chronically stressed, we're chronically anxious, we're told at 13 years old it runs in our family, and we choose a lifestyle path to the left that perpetuates that cycle, throwing daggers at you all the time, and you're never taught about emotional control or how to regulate your emotions or about the nervous system even at all, the cycle continues and we forever think we're broken. And we just keep kind of doing these things because we don't know. This is one of the reasons I wanted to call this series the Brainwave series, because as I was studying about, sleep, I was interested in sleep, the brainwave cycles, and when we wake up, we go through delta, theta, alpha, beta. And delta is when you're not even dreaming. You're just dead asleep. And I feel like that's what it is when you have anxiety and you don't feel like there's a way out. It's like you get to those points where it doesn't make sense and everything's heavy and, it just is. And then we get to the theta stage, which is when we're waking up and we're still like in a dreamlike state. And it's usually, this is when our great ideas come into play. Like when you're driving on a highway and you're cruising and all of a sudden you get 30 minutes in and you're like, how the heck did I get here? Like, that was definitely not safe. I don't remember that drive at all. That's when you're in theta. And this is where all the ideas come to life. And this is what I believe the nutrition side comes into, or showing up to things like this, and it's just like you're getting there and it's like now you have hope again, hopefully a little bit. Or it's one of the things where when we start to get these ideas, we start to generate momentum, and we realize that, okay, so anxiety isn't something I'm stuck with. On a science level, it's just my vagus nerve isn't functioning optimally, and because of that, my brain has a boo-boo. And the things I've been doing, whether it's medications or what have you, or avoiding certain things, it's just a band-aid over a bleeding wound. Is this all making sense to you all? And so as we start to navigate this path, we end up still with so now what? What do I do? What do I do now? Right? So we're aware, and then we get to the alpha stage where it's like, okay, so it's non-arousal state. It's when you're thinking and you're reflecting essentially you haven't started to make active movements yet, so you're just reflecting. And so this is often where I feel like we run into the fact of medications being the thing that comes first, and it's not to say it's bad. I never want to shame them. I used them for a very long time to manage my life. You know, I used them on and off until one time it started to make me question why I was getting diagnosed, because I had flown home from Asia after an altercation with my boyfriend at the time that got so bad, and I had to come back to America. And I went in to talk to my doctor at the time, and her initial response was wanting to throw me on medication to handle it. And my only thought process in that moment, and why I stopped taking medications from that, was the problem isn't my brain. The problem is my relationship and the abuse and the toxic, like that. How is this little thing gonna fix my brain? And so this is when I started to really dive more into the brain and just kind of get more curious and pay attention to me. You know, like, what is my emotional response? How am I showing up, and what am I doing this? And I would love to say that I healed my life after that, but I didn't, because I didn't do the work. And we do that. And so when it comes to neuroplasticity, the thing about our brain is it gets fired differently when we heal the communication. When we understand what's going on, when we get that inflammation down, the alarm bells stop going off. And it starts to build stronger, and it's able to, like, the coolest thing about the clients that I work with and the women of my world, they used to have zero emotional control. They used to having, like, panic attacks all the time. They used to, which led to, like, obsession and compulsion and things like that, or it led to, you know, going another route of, like, eating, restrictive eating patterns to, you know, help with their gut troubles. There's this whole spectrum. But the coolest thing is that when they get to play around with the vagal nerve, with balancing blood sugar levels, with restoring their metabolism, all the things, stressful things happen, but you don't fly off the handle anymore. You know, like, it's one of the, have you ever had those moments where it's like, you get in a fight with someone you love dearly, right? Like, it's a small thing. It's such a small thing. And all of a sudden, you are fuming. Like, everything in your body is awake and heightened, and this, like, inner child comes out, and it's, like, talking to you, and then you finish the fight and the argument, and maybe you're still in your ego, and then you get home, and you're like, why the heck did I say that? Like, I love this person. Why the heck did I say that? It's because our nervous system can't handle it at the time. And that's fixable when we fix this communication that's going on. Because our nervous system, it's not like our vagus nerve shuts off and she never comes back on. She just needs to be stimulated again. And there's easy ways of doing that too. It's like, you can hum, helps to stimulate it. Cold showers help to stimulate it. Laughing helps to stimulate it. It's like right by your glands, right? And then humming, chanting, meditating. It's nothing that we need to be like, I need to flick my throat 47 times, sniff the color 9, and bow to my toes, and do a plie. Like, we don't... there's so much on the internet that makes this sound like it's so overwhelming and so confusing, and we have to do 18 different backflips to get there. But it's not. It's daily practice we get to add into our routine. So when you're cooking dinner, can you hum? Can you put on a song and just be it just makes you happy when you do it anyways. So, like, how can we add that in? Can you add in a cold shower? This is why those cold plunges are really popular nowadays. Helps to give, like, a little immediate danger kind of vibes to your body, because of the way, so also what happens when we are anxious and depressed and stressed and all this kind of stuff, our body doesn't know the difference between imminent danger and my boyfriend's a jerk. She don't know. And so in our body, because of that enteric nervous system, we feel our heartbeat, our lungs start to. She freaks out. She thinks there's danger. So the blood flow then has to go to our heart, our lungs, our organs, our things like that. It does not go to our digestion. It does not go to our reproductive organs. And so these things start to shut down, and it doesn't function as optimally as it's supposed to. And we're just kind of set onto these spirals, and it perpetuates the cycle, because if the blood flow is overstimulating the brain, that is then impacting the microbiome, and this communication cycle just keeps going and going and going. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because we need those things, right? We need those things if immediate danger is happening. And we need to run. We need all the blood flow to our muscles and our heart so we have the best cardio to book it out of there. It's necessary. We need it. But when things like that happen, can we come back? Can we slow down? Can we feel connected again? But when it's chronic, because we haven't figured that part out yet, to slow it down, to bring it back, to keep things calm, our body's going to stay stuck in this fight or flight. And we're going to start to see things. This is why anxiety usually isn't just the thing by itself. Anxiety comes with digestive issues and food intolerances and food sensitivities. It comes with acid reflux and GERD. It comes with tension headaches and migraines. It comes with hormonal imbalances and, really hard PMS. By the way, we are not supposed to have PMS. Yes, you will be a little bit tired, but hard PMS and, the chronic headaches and the needing to lay on the bed all day, that's not normal. Very common, but not normal. We'll get adrenal fatigue because our blood flow isn't going to where it needs to go. So our body essentially starts to eat itself because it's stuck in a fight or flight mode and it doesn't know how to turn off the switch. And so why food is important in this is because of that digestion aspect. Right? I was never told about food. I was never told about food for my mood regulation. I didn't understand that the fact that my IBS and my really restrictive dieting and the fact that I was 40 pounds underweight and doing F45 every day, sometimes twice a day, was gonna heighten my anxiety, or the fasting I was doing, or all these kind of things. I didn't get that because those things are quote unquote healthy. But are they really, if your body is already showing you a symptom through anxiety, depression, IBS? Is it really healthy? I'd have to argue no. And when we use food in the right ways, we help to create this system in our body from the vagus nerve. It starts to get calm again. The inflammation starts to go down. But we create diversity into our microbiome. And when we have diversity, it gives off this short-chain fatty acid, say that 10 times fast, called butyrate. And butyrate keeps our gut lining strong, which helps to make sure our foods are actually helping to benefit our bodies as opposed to put it into a fight or flight response. And so tomorrow we're going to be talking about the strategies and getting into all of that stuff and the specific foods and things like that. Today is more the what are we doing every day that impacts this? And I know we're coming up on time, so I want to talk about one last thing that has to do with how we handle our emotions. When anxiety comes, when depression comes, when triggers come. And the difference between circumstantial power and personal power. And this was huge. Huge. It still is so freaking huge when it comes to my life, specifically in my relationship, specifically in my business. Circumstantial power. We need both. Mind you, we need both. But circumstantial power is, I will be perfect only if this is perfect. So I will work out. Oh, Lindsay. I love you. So I will only do this if I have that. So I will, only show up for myself when I got a total of 8 hours of sleep last night. I will only go to the gym if I have the most perfect day at work and I don't feel stressed and I don't want to mask in Netflix. But if my boss is a dick, I'm doing Netflix. So you're not going to the gym then. Yeah, but like only if my boss is cool today, because if he's super stressful, I'm not gonna have the motivation. I'm gonna be really tired and I don't want to go, so I'm not gonna go. Okay, so, or I'm gonna meditate in the morning only if my kids don't fight over the waffle maker or toaster. I'll meditate then, but only if they don't do that, even though they pretty much do that every single day, and like he eats hers and this whole thing. But I will meditate only if, when that happens. So you're saying you're not meditating? And don't get me wrong, I don't meditate that much. I have meditative practices like editing things and going on walks, but like I genuinely like sitting still. It's never been my vibe, and that's okay. I had a lot of shame around that. But anyways, circumstantial power, we need them, right? Like they're the first things that got me to where I am. It was, I had to wake up and sit for 15 minutes because my morning routine was what kept me sane in that abusive relationship that I was in. This was this hour in the morning before he would wake up and I'd have to go to work, and it was me time, right? It got me through the journaling, the meditating, the humming, the eating a certain way, like all of these things. When my schedule was perfect, this was it. And that's okay. When I felt loved, I acted a certain way. When I had the perfect workout, I acted a certain way. When I wrote in my journal, I felt a certain way. It was these different, it was fine. But then on days when he relapsed, or he had certain parts of his day that affected mine, or something at work happened, or, a client missed a payment, or a team member acted up, how did I then show up? Because I hadn't yet recognized my personal power. All the bricks dropped. And that's what anxiety does. We're good. We're good when our routines are met. We're good when we're safe at our home. We're good when we have our 8 hours of sleep. We're good when, nothing triggers us and we're walking in a bubble and we have our perfect routines. They keep us safe and we keep them strong. And then over time we realize how isolated we are, and how picky we are, and how hard we are to date, and how we're losing friends because our need to control is being unintentionally selfish. And it's all of these things, and this fear starts to creep up, and these scenarios starts to keep replaying in our head. And what I realize is because we don't know our personal power. For me, I slept like crap last night. I cannot tell you the excitement that was pumping through my little chicken nugget heart last night about this, and how excited I am to freaking talk about mental health. Like, yeah, I slept maybe 4 hours. I woke up this morning and I was like, for a sec, like old me would have been like, it is ruined. I'm gonna have such a bad day because I didn't sleep yesterday, and I woke up and I didn't meditate because Elvis, my partner, Elvis was here, and yes, his name is Elvis, I know. He was here and I didn't get to do the full morning routine and these whole things. I wasn't gonna show up as my energetic self. No, like now it's like, I know I didn't sleep. It's also National Coffee Day, so I'm gonna use my new espresso maker and I'm gonna make it a good day because we have a choice. Like, who are you when the circumstances aren't right? Who are you when that's, you know, like, in what helped me, like, when I was in the heat of that relationship, right? That one was hard. But my personal power, when I was beaten, battered, bruised, not knowing what to go, I went to meetings. I went to Al-Anon. I went to CODA. I went to support groups. That was my personal power. What we have to do as humans is stop confusing fault and responsibility. I am not at fault for the things that happen in my life, the way my brain works, the things that run in my family lineage, the circumstances I'm put inside of. But I am 1000% responsible how these are affecting my life and how I'm showing up and how I'm responding. I'm 1000% responsible for that. I chose to continue in those cycles. I chose to not pay attention to this stuff. I chose to continue partying and drinking and masking and numbing out and using things. Like, it was like, I chose that. Until I stopped and I chose something else. And I saw that even though something would happen, I still had my back. No matter what. And over time, the standard raised. Like, yes, I have bad days. I have bloated days. I have days where I feel like a freaking sausage and Elvis has to come over and he literally will just jump on top of me and he's like, burrito! And he wraps me in a burrito and it's a burrito day. And I sit and I journal and I drink tea and I cry and I feel my feelings and I do things anyways. But I don't mask it. I don't pretend it doesn't happen. I don't shut the things I feel out anymore. Because we're humans having a human experience and emotions are okay. That's why I opened this thing saying, you're okay. You've always been okay and what you're feeling is okay. We go through this journey told that we are wrong and that we need to change and that something is broken inside of us and nothing is. We're intuitive women. We're hyper emotional. How freaking cool is that? You can feel the energy of a room when you walk in it. And when we fear those heart palpitations and we fear the things our body is showing to us, we freak out. But what if you just understood what was going on? And you're like, oh yeah, I didn't sleep. Or the energy in this room is not my vibe. You know, for a long time, I thought bars, like I thought something was broken with me, so I would over drink or over consume because bars were too much. And the only way I would feel like belonged was over consuming. And then doing the work that I've done over the last 6 years and the things that I teach my clients, I realize now it's like, no, that's just too much energy and you really don't want to be there. You're so right. Humming does make you feel better. In general, my grandma always used to hum. Makes me happy thinking, that makes my soul happy, Lindsay. I love that. But it's one of those things, and when we start to identify, like, anxiety, it's just a thing. It's just a thing. The more we fear it, the more we fight it, the more we silence it, she fights back. And I'm sure you're feeling that. But what I know to be true is that we get a choice in how that story is told. get a choice in how we nourish ourselves through it, how we handle things, what story we make up about it. Like, now that you know, anxiety is just neuroinflammation, and neuroinflammation just happens because inflammation in our body somewhere in a inactive or underactive vagal nerve. Does anyone else feel free? Like, I feel like when I found that out, I was like, so you mean I'm not broken? Ooh. Like, that changes everything. Because that means it's fixable. It means it doesn't run in your family. It is not something you're stuck with. And medications are not the only solution. And you might be thinking, yeah, but it does run in my family. I have been taking medications, and I have had this forever. Think those thoughts. Let them come through you. And you'll see in our homework where we're going to be challenging that today, because it's after knowing what I just told you about, you know, our microbiome changes in 4 days. Our brain changes. Neuroplasticity. We can change the way it fires and wires. And epigenetics, we get control over. I'm walking proof. I went from suicide 3 times in my life to being here to tell the story today. To being able to sit, I was in Utah hiking the other day, to be like, I am so happy I chose to live. And I'm so happy that I get to even think that thought. And know now that when I feel anxiety, what's going on? What's my blood sugar levels doing? Have I hummed enough today? Did I go outside? Did I go for a walk? Have I touched my toes? Did I move my body? Did I tell someone I loved them? Did I experience life outside of my own brain today? Because anxiety will tell us stories, and she'll convince them that they're real. And then we replay the scenarios over and over and over again. Until we can't even think of, we're like, was that a memory? Or like, did that happen? Or was that just something I feared happening? Like, I can't even remember. But there was a quote by Abraham Hicks that I saw this morning that was, the way to detach a thought is to activate a preferred thought. So it's about choosing, isn't it? So I'm asking you to make the choice. And I truly believe that you are, and you're capable of that, because you're freaking here. That's more than I did. You know, you're here. There are some faces that I see on here where I'm like, I have talked to you guys, and it's to see the way you show up for yourselves. It literally gets me so activated. I freaking love it, and I love you humans because it's amazing. And so today I wanted to break down the science, and tomorrow we're going to talk about the strategy. We're going to be getting into the foods, we're going to be getting into the routines, all the kind of stuff. But when we learn how something works, it's not so scary. And so I hope you are feeling a little bit lighter today. And then if you guys have any questions or anything for today, we are complete. I'm going to go into talking about some of the programs we have coming up. Now we can continue this conversation. It's going to go from low ticket to high ticket, all the kind of stuff, and we'll expand on it more tomorrow as well. But if you're complete for today, fantastic. This was day 1. I will see you for tomorrow for the juicy strategies and things like that. And I love you. And so, what we have coming up, this is the 2-part series to a 5-part series. So, the follow-up, to celebrate my birthday, we have a masterclass training called Reframe, which is all about how to restore the gut-brain connection. You know, we're in the why and the what, and so over these 3 days happening the 4th, 5th, and 6th, we are going to be unpacking on the 2 days how to restore the gut-brain connection, and on the 3rd day, it's a live Q&A. So you get me as your coach. You get some fire coaching, all that kind of stuff to really ask your questions, get the things you want answered, go through the nitty-gritty, the things that will give you that evolution. And so that is just $44. I'll post that after this. It's the follow-up of this program of really how we integrate things. And then we have the Labyrinth coming up, which ever since this came to me, it's the most beautiful journey I've witnessed women go on. It's been the most fun for me to teach because I go on the journey with them. It is a live program just like this, where you get to ask your questions. It goes on for 5 weeks. So you get me as your coach for 5 weeks. You're in a supportive community. And we are talking all about this stuff. The gut-brain connection, how do we implement it, all the things in our day-to-day living so that we can come out of it. The women that have gone through this, because it ran first for the first time 2 months ago, within 5 weeks, they're like, I am talking to my doctor about coming off of medications. Like, I've seen that a lot in my one-on-one practice, but in this program and the implementations of this, like, to have that freedom and the emotional control and, you know, the way that they're relating to their husbands and their friendships and how they're going out to eat and how they're navigating things, it was just like this beautiful thing. And so if you're interested in joining that, it's on early bird. Right now, it is only $555, and there is a payment plan available for that. And the price for that will increase on Friday. So if you're interested in joining that, just DM me and let me know, and you can get in on that. And then for the rest of the year, we have 2 programs. So we have the Labyrinth and the Gut Recharge. Gut Recharge is our metabolism. I'm not going to talk too much on that one, but if you wanted to get in on both those courses, if you wanted the bundle, that is $999 right now. If you bought them separately, each one would be $888. So if you get them together, you're getting that's like $1,700. So you're getting like $800 off, which is bananas to me. It's such a good deal. And then of course we have our one-to-one, but you can DM me to learn more about that. I don't want to overwhelm with what's happening, but we're closing out the year. And so running these programs and getting the foundation and helping you guys really evolve to the women you're meant to be is the mission here. Because my dream in this world is to have more women like the women that have gone through my programs, because when we stop fearing our bodies, we become the women we're meant to be. And when we become the women we're meant to be, we have relationships, we have sisterhood, we have friendships, we have a work-life balance, we have this magnetism that the world needs more of. And it makes me so happy to see that happen in these worlds. And so if you're interested in any of that stuff, I'll be talking more about it tomorrow as well. But if you want to get the early bird deals, I will post once I get off here the links so you can come join those. Like I said, Reframe is a 3-day masterclass that's happening next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Also on Tuesday, it's my birthday, so we get to have a little champagne moment of celebration. And that is $44, and the price for that will increase on Friday. And then Labyrinth is on pre-sale, and the price for that will increase on Friday as well. And that is our 5-week program. So I love you, beautiful ladies. I hope you're feeling juicy, feeling delicious, and just, can we just take a breath, please? You're okay. You've always been okay. And you being here right now shows you have it in you to do anything. Anything, anything, anything. Thank you, sweetie. They want the real Lindsay back. I feel that. Do you feel like that? Do you feel like she can come forward? You know, like, I'm sure she wants to come through. But you're here and you're doing the work, and I love that for you. And so I will see you again tomorrow for day 2 of our 2-day series, where we are going to be talking about the strategy, my friend. The strategy, the energy, the way to integrate this help. Yes, Lindsay. Oh, I love you so much. I'm so excited for us. I'm so excited. All right, my dears. Have a beautiful middle of the week. Celebrate yourself today for making the commitment to show up here. Do that for me, okay? Because time is the most valuable thing that we have. And you chose to spend an hour with me, and I am. There are no words to express my gratitude. I thank you, and I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Happy healings.